Just waiting for a few more people to enter the live. Hope y'all having a pleasant day so far. Spring will be here in no time. The weather is getting warmer and warmer each day. So we're excited to get growing. This year we plan to grow more vegetables in more locations. So we currently have the backyard garden. There's a few school gardens that we help maintain, and the community garden on Sherrod Street. So it's going to be a very productive season. Just waiting for a few more people to enter, and then we'll get started. Spring will be here in no time. The weather is getting warm. Spring will be here in no time. All right, let's get started. Darian from Plant-ery. As always, we're on a mission to inspire as many people as we can to grow their own food. We teach organic gardening online. We sponsor local elementary school gardens, and I'm the coordinator for a local community garden. We really want to get as many people as we can to learn to grow their own food. Homegrown food is healthier for you. It saves you money. And hey, if we all grow something and trade with each other, we can eat for free. So let's get started and plan your spring garden. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. We're just going to go over the basics and kind of give just a general outline of some things to focus on when planning your garden. If you want to know anything more specific, feel free to ask. But we just want to give you the basics and make it easy. Take the guesswork out of gardening. The main thing you want to focus on, well, not the main thing, but the first thing is to determine how much space you have available. You can't grow a ton of watermelons if you're on a small apartment balcony. So first determine how much space you have. So we'll start with apartment/container gardening. When I first learned to grow my own food, I lived in an apartment. So it's only so much you can do, but it doesn't stop you from growing. You can grow just about anything in a pot. You just have to have the right size pot. I recommend that you grow what you eat. So let's say if you're on a healthy lifestyle journey and you want to get as many leafy greens in your diet as possible, that makes gardening easier in a pot because just about every green can be grown in a small pot. Let's say about a mop bucket size pot. And you can go to a Dollar Tree or just reuse something around the house and poke a hole in the bottom of it, fill it with dirt, and you can grow all your greens in a small pot. Now, if you want to grow something a little larger, say a tomato, a pepper plant, some okra, or cucumbers, anything that produces fruit, then you want to go a little larger, say a 5-gallon bucket minimum, maybe even larger than that. So go to your nearest hardware store for Walmart. Get a 5-gallon bucket and drill some holes in the bottom of it. Fill it with organic garden soil or potting soil, and then you'll be able to grow, those fruiting vegetables in a 5-gallon bucket. You can always go larger, but at the absolute smallest, I would say 5-gallon. What else would you need to know to grow in a pot? All right. Pots, they tend to dry out faster because it's a smaller space that the soil is occupying. So you have to be mindful how often you're watering it. Now, that can go both ways. You can overwater and you can underwater in a pot. And most plants will die faster by overwatering than underwater. Or allow me to rephrase that. They'll recover faster from underwatering than they would from overwatering. Overwatering is always a problem. So you want to monitor how much water you're giving the plants. You can just stick your finger in it, or you can get a moisture monitor to let you know just how much water is being maintained in the soil. You can add vermiculite, perlite, compost to kind of help water retain itself in the soil, so you don't have to water as much, but still monitor how much water you're putting in it. Now, if you're not in an apartment and you have a small yard or a school or just an open space that you're able to grow in, then that makes it a little bit easier. You can grow in ground, or you can build a raised bed. Now, I have a backyard, so I prefer in ground growing because it saves you a lot of money on dirt. All you have to do is till it up, hoe it up, dish it up one good time, and then after that it's just maintenance. Keep the weeds out, keep it loose, keep it turned over, keep it mineralized. You only have to worry about that initial tilling or dishing or cultivating, and it's a lot easier. You have more space, and you can practice square foot gardening as opposed to just one plant per pot. All right, so outside of how much space you have, the next thing you would want to focus on in what you want to grow. Now, I always recommend grow what you eat. There's no point in growing a ton of tomatoes if you don't eat tomatoes. I see Miss Rose just entered the live. How you doing, Miss Rose? Oh, there's no point in growing something that you don't intend to eat. So just go over your grocery list, figure out what common vegetable or fruit you eat a ton of, or you purchase on the regular, and grow it yourself. Most veggies and fruits are either cut and come again, or they're gonna continuously produce all season. So if you plant some tomatoes, that tomato plant is gonna continue to set fruit until the last frost, or until the frost kills it, or you kill it. So pick something you enjoy eating, something you spend a lot of money on, and then grow it yourself. There's no point in growing something you don't eat. Now, another thing to consider is days to maturity. Now, me personally, I'm a little impatient, so I love to grow things that I know is going to produce something in a timely manner. So like radish / radish greens, you can harvest in a month or less. Baby arugula, baby kale, lettuce, it tends to be ready to harvest in right at a month or 40 days. Now, on the other end of that spectrum are your things like cantaloupes, watermelon, cassava melon, sweet potatoes, pumpkins. They tend to take 3 months, 90 days, sometimes 100 days to produce. Now, don't get me wrong, I love me some watermelon, I love me some cantaloupe, but it takes a long time to produce those things. So it's now the time to plant tomatoes. Yes, you can start your tomatoes right now. it's going to be a small cold snap this upcoming week in our area, Zone 8B, Northeast Louisiana. But for the most part, if I had to put some money on it, I would say our last frost has passed. So I don't believe we're going to get any crazy frost weather that's going to kill anything. So you can go ahead and start your tomatoes indoors. If you start some tomatoes indoors right now, kind of baby them a little bit, they're going to be ready to put outside in about a month and a half. And then you can put them directly in a pot or put them in the ground. So yes, right now it's the time to start, sowing tomato seeds in either your kit, your greenhouse. I personally don't like direct sowing tomato seeds in the ground. It could be done, but I like to kind of give the tomatoes a head start indoors. Make sure they're transplant size, they're healthy before I put them in the ground. Now that's just a personal preference. Don't allow me to persuade you to not direct sow them. You can definitely direct sow those tomatoes, Miss Rose, but I prefer to start them indoors first, give them a little size, and then from there take them outside. Miss Beth, you don't need warmers to start your seedlings. The warmers is more so for the seeds that prefer warm weather before they start sprouting. Like, for example, if I try to sprout some pepper or watermelon seeds in the dead of winter, they're not gonna have a decent germination rate because seeds like that prefer warmth. Now those seed warmers, those just trick the seeds into go ahead and sprouting if it's still cool outside. Now they're a cool gadget to have, the seed warmers, but they're not really needed. I try to be as economical as possible. I try to take all the extra bells and whistles out of gardening. You can use the seed warmers, but you don't really need them. Especially if you're growing, in a warm weather climate. Spring is here, so no, it's not really needed. We are still 34 degrees. Well, in that case, if it's still cool in your area, then yes, use the seed warmers just to get them sprouted, get them going, keep them indoors, and then once your weather is consistently above 60, 70 degrees, then you can go ahead and keep them outside. But since you're still in the 34 range, I wouldn't risk putting anything outside or just trying to sprout in that cold weather. New York. Miss Beth, quick question in the comment. When is New York's last frost on average? What month / date normally is you guys' frost done for the year? And thank you to everyone that is tuning in. And thank you, Miss Rose and Miss Beth, for your questions. Okay, end of April. So let's see, we are beginning of March. So I'm just gonna estimate that's about a month and a half. Yeah, you start your seeds indoors. And then by mid to late April, your seedlings should be ready to take outside, and they'll have a decent, healthy size to them. So you should be able to just put them directly in the ground from there. Now, what do you plan to grow this year, Miss Beth? And also, Miss Rose, you can go ahead and put something in the chat that you plan to grow as well, and I can kind of help you with your game plan as well. So far, I have my squash started, I have my cucumber started, I have some lettuce started, I have about 3 trays of kale started. When I say I love kale, It's one of the first things that I learned to grow, and it's packed with nutrition. So I grow it every year. I try to have at least 2 beds of kale. I grow a 25-foot by 30-inch bed, and that gives you a decent amount. That allows me to harvest, a couple of bags of kale, wait a week or two, move on to the next, wait a week or two, move on to the next section, and then by the time I harvest everything in the bed, I can start again at the front, and I'll have a continuous supply of whatever produce I have in that bed. Peppers, hot peppers, good stuff. And on the cucumbers, try, if you can, grow them vertically. That'll save you space, and it'll keep them off the ground. That way, no pests will be chewing on them. They'll be clean. You won't have to worry about cucumber sprawling all over the growing space. So you'll be able to put more in a bed or in a section. If you grow cucumbers, climbing beans, peas. You even can get away with growing squash vertically as well, depending on the variety. And you may have to use like some zip ties or some string to keep them up. But anything you can grow vertically, try. It'll save you space. I'm gonna go tomatoes and cucumbers. Miss Rose, go ahead and throw some lettuce in there as well. You can have you a salad garden. My leaves. Is there something I am doing wrong? Give me a little bit more information. When you were growing last year, did it get the white dust after you watered it? Because that could be the powdery mildew. If especially on like the squash leaves, if the leaves get too wet and they don't dry out fast enough, it can start growing powdery mildew on it. And in that case, you can use neem oil to kind of, it's really an antibacterial, a natural antibacterial neem oil. And, I can go ahead and show you what that looks like. Just concentrated neem oil. Off the top of my head, I believe the ratio is a tablespoon of neem oil, a half a tablespoon of Dawn dish soap, and then fill a bottle up with, well, this is a store-bought neem oil, but you can also make your own as well. But then just fill a bottle up with water, shake that up, and then you can spray the leaves. What's another antibacterial? Some people use milk for that as well, but neem oil is always my go-to for that powdery mildew. And neem oil can be found at Lowe's, Home Depot, sometimes Walmart, and that's NEEM. Amazon, nowadays Amazon is a lot of people's best friends. You purchase it, you'll have it 2 days later. No, go back in there. Go, close the door. Close the door. I'm just looking at, bear with you, I'm just looking at the comments. And then Miss Rose, tomatoes, cucumbers, and lettuce. Miss Rose, are you going to grow in pots again, or are you ready to go ahead and, dig up that backyard? So, pots, they're cool, but you can grow a lot more produce when you go ahead and dig up that backyard. I want to convert as many people as I can into that in-ground gardening, because it's a beautiful thing. You can grow a lot of produce in that backyard. Oh no, I'm sticking with the pots. I understand. Well, one day I'm gonna convince you to dig up that backyard. After you consider how much space you have, after you consider what you plan to grow, days to maturity, what you eat. You also want to concentrate on just the gardening basics: sunlight, water, soil nutrition, and pest control. Most fruiting veggies need at least 6 hours of just bright sunlight. You can't grow like cucumbers, watermelons, peppers, okra. The normal veggies. You can't grow them in shade. You can get away with growing some herbs and greens in shade, but the fruiting veggies, you need sunlight. So you want to grow them in a spot on your yard or on your balcony that gets a lot of sunlight. So location does matter. Now we talked about water. Don't overwater, don't underwater. Now rainwater is awesome. So whenever it rains, I am in a good mood. I try to collect some of that rainwater, so I'll put like a small container or a bottle underneath the gutters to collect some of that rainwater because it's natural fertilizer. When it comes down, it has that good old-fashioned earth trace minerals in rainwater. So if you pay attention, right after it rains, a lot of your fruit and veggies in the garden kind of perk up a little bit. They shoot up. They get a quick boost of growth because that rain has a lot of nutrition in it. So if you can collect some of that rainwater, put it in a watering can, and use it to water your plants sometimes. Soil nutrition. So I always use a compost-based fertilizer. You can use fish emulsion. If your leaves are giving you trouble, you can use a nitrogen-based, which would be like a blood meal, fish fertilizer, something like that to get the leaves to boost. If it's in flowering mode, you would want something phosphorus-based, which would be like a bone meal. If like the petals are falling off and you like a blossom end rot. A lot of tomatoes do that. Like before it sets fruit, the flowers will fall off. Then you will need more calcium. I like to crunch up eggshells, especially if you're composting. That makes it real easy. Crunched up eggshells in the garden that will help add more calcium in it. You can also put I saw a farmer used Tums, Tums, a calcium-based over-the-counter. Bury that underneath the tomatoes to help with blossom end rot. All right, we have critters that will eat your. We have too many rocks, and we have critters that will eat your stuff. All right, on the critters now, are you talking like raccoon, squirrels, kind of like or like cats, or more like bugs? Because I would tell you something different based off of what kind of critters you're speaking of, Miss Beth. New Life Fit. I have a hard time growing beets. Any advice on tips? I have tried almost 3 years and I don't get anything. I'm gonna New Life Fit. I'm gonna kind of give you just a guess to what I think is wrong. But in the meantime, write in the chat what exactly the beets are doing or what it looks like when you're growing them. Now, any root vegetable like beets, radishes, or turnips, since they're growing underground and they're expanding, like a bulb, then you would want to make sure that the soil is loose, pliable. You don't want it too compact because if it's just tight, like, packed up soil, it's not going to be able to grow. So a lot of times we just put our seeds in just any kind of soil. And a lot of plants are, they're strong, they grow against all odds. But root vegetables, since, the root is the fruit, you want to make sure that soil can be moved and it has enough room to expand. Skunks and raccoons and groundhogs. I've never encountered the skunks and I've encountered the raccoons, the skunks and the groundhogs, but the raccoons, I make a cayenne pepper based deterrent. Some people use garlic as well, But just get some cayenne pepper powder. Well, matter of fact, you don't even need to use the sprayer. You actually can just get straight cayenne pepper and just spray it in your back. Sprinkle it, not spray it. Sprinkle it in your backyard, around your garden. The raccoons hate the smell of that, and they have strong nose. So if they sniff that, it's gonna make them go away. So you can use the cayenne pepper for the raccoons. But I'm not sure about the groundhogs and the skunks. We don't really have a lot of groundhogs in my area. We do have skunks. I just haven't encountered them yet to really have a game plan on how to get rid of them. But that's the good thing about gardening. You learn as you grow. So each year I do encounter something different, and I have to figure out, how to get over it. Or I may encounter a pest, a bug that I've never seen before, and I have to come up with a plan and figure out how to get rid of it. Now on the pest control again, neem oil. I mentioned it for the powdery mildew, but a lot of bugs hate neem oil. When they're chewing on the leaves and they taste that neem, it's gonna make them go away. And neem oil kills certain pest eggs. So like the white flies, the grubs. It's one other pest that I can't remember the name of. You see, we got the white flies, the aphids. Use the neem oil. I also like to use like herbs, like the aromatic herbs like oregano, sage, mint. I said oregano, rosemary, lavender. A lot of pests don't like the smell of those, and it'll deter them. But in addition to that, if it's a lot of smells going on around your produce, it's gonna throw off the bugs. They're not gonna know where to go. So I like to plant like certain herbs throughout the garden. You also can do marigolds. They don't like the smell of that, but with the marigolds, it's gonna attract beneficial bugs like the ladybugs, the predatory wasps, and the bumblebees. So they're gonna help with pollination, and it's gonna help deter certain pests. Now, another pest that a lot of people encounter are the ants. I don't really mind like ants in the garden that much because they tunnel underneath, so they kind of create aeration for the roots. But if it's too many of them, then it kind of makes harvesting a hassle. You're watching where you're stepping. You're in the garden picking stuff, and then next thing you know, your ankles are covered in ants. For them, you can use borax and sugar. I can't remember the formula right off the top of my head, but I'm sure you can just a quick Google search. But it's like 2 parts borax, 1 part sugar. I may have that backwards, so fact check me, please. Soak that solution in water with some cotton balls. Put the cotton balls close to the garden, and then the ants are gonna take that borax back to their queen. They're gonna eat, and then they're all gonna die. I know that sounds morbid, but that's a organic way to get rid of the ants in the garden. Okay, that may be my issue. But New Life Fit, do not give up on growing beets. Beets are very nutritious. I like to chop them up and throw them in the blender with fruit. That's like a smoothie. They help with blood health. They have a lot of trace minerals. They're overall healthy vegetable. What about bunnies? Now, I had pet bunnies, and I fed them the produce from the garden. Now, the thing about organic gardening, you can't get rid of all of them. Bugs and animals love organic produce just as much as we do, and in a way, if my garden doesn't have a couple of nibbles in the leaves, I feel like I'm not doing something right, because I want other organisms to want my food as well, because that lets me know that it's really legit. So it's when you spray it with every chemical and then the bugs don't come. I don't want that. I want it to be as healthy and nutritious as possible. And if I truly want that, then there's going to be other organisms trying to get it. Now, rabbits or bunnies, for that matter, I have a lot of hawks in my area, so bunnies don't really show up close to the bayou, but you can. They have strong noses as well, so I'm sure you can use the cayenne pepper, garlic spray method to keep them out of the garden. But you also can use the. It's not bait and switch. What's the other term? So all right. So just in lieu of having the perfect word, essentially, you're going to grow something that you know bunnies like, and you're gonna put it over there. So if they show up, they're gonna go straight to the decoy. That's the word I was looking for. They're gonna go straight to that section, and they're gonna leave your cucumbers or your lettuce, what you're growing that you actually like care about. They're gonna leave that alone because you grew something for them. So essentially, you're growing extra produce for the critters, so they can leave your important plants alone. I heard hot peppers are helpful too. Yes. So, cayenne, just hot red pepper, cause those squirrels, raccoons, bunnies, they have very very strong noses. So if they smell that pepper, it's gonna make them want to go away. I'm just looking at my notes. Bear with me. So we talked about ants, the neem oil, flowers like the marigolds, the nasturtiums. You really just you want to stay away from growing just one thing, because if you're growing nothing but lettuce and something starts infecting your lettuce, then more than likely your entire crop is going to fail, because it's all in one spot. If you interplant your lettuce, your cucumbers, your peppers, your okra, then there's a lot of smells going on. It's a lot of diversity, so it's hard for certain organisms just to hone in just on everything, because there's so many smells. They don't know where to go. You don't want just straight kale in your backyard, or just straight lettuce, or just straight not cucumbers. That's not really a problem as far as like being nibbled on. But you want some kind of diversity. You want more than one type of plant. Jalapenos, I'm just looking at the comments. Yeah, now's the time to get growing. What do you suggest to plant in groups? I like to plant my tomatoes and basil together. The tomato horn worms don't like the smell of basil, and basil goes well with tomatoes. As far as tomato soups, salsa, spaghetti, pizza, they're a good pair. So I always grow basil and tomatoes together. I always grow like just I put my herbs throughout the garden. So I grow sage, I grow oregano, I grow mint. I'm gonna forget something because I grow just about everything. I grow lavender, I grow ginger, turmeric, thyme, and I just place them throughout the garden. So I grow my herbs in pots, so it makes it portable if I need to move it around. So I have a bed of kale, and then on this side it'd be a couple of pots of mint. Then I move up a little bit, it'd be a couple of pots of oregano, and then in the middle of the bed, or surrounding the produce, I have a couple of marigolds. So it kind of creates some diversity, and it covers the scent of the the plants that I'm growing. So those bugs that want to nibble on them, they're not going to smell them. It's not going to be as easy for them to locate them. It says I plant groups. In winter, do you grow inside? I have a small greenhouse. So I overwinter some of my herbs, but they're gonna die and come back anyway. But I try to prolong my growing season, so I bring the herbs in the small greenhouse, and I have a covering. It's like a low tunnel so, that I cover my greens in, and most of the time they last all winter long. So I grow kale throughout the winter. I grow onions throughout the winter. Grow radishes throughout the winter, and I grow arugula throughout the winter. And I just cover them up in a low tunnel whenever it gets below freezing. So if it's consistently 28 degrees or 32 degrees for a couple of days, I'll just cover it up, and it'll keep it from dying back. So there are a ton of ways to prolong your growing season. One of which is to grow things that can withstand a frost. Kale can withstand a frost. Spinach can withstand a frost. Uh, Ginger, not so much. It's gonna the top is gonna die, but you can always just pull up the roots and rinse and repeat, start again. But you can, and depending on what area you're in, you can grow just about year round. All right, so we got sunlight, water, soil health and nutrition. So try to ensure that your soil isn't too compact. Add worm castings to it. That's an easy way to get some nutrients and some organic matter in it to ensure that it's not just straight clay, compact, rough dirt. You want the roots to be able to go down efficiently, spread. The healthier the root system, the healthier the plant. Kind of like a tree. You see the top of the tree, how big it is, but the bigger the tree gets, the further those roots have to go down. So you want to ensure that the plant has healthy roots, because if it has small, damaged roots, the top is not going to be healthy. You can add mycorrhizal powder to your soil that'll help with root health. Also, those worm castings I was talking about. I like to add compost to my garden bed in the beginning of the season, and then a slow release organic fertilizer. So slowly throughout the season, it'll pull what it needs. Now, always pay attention to your plants, because your plants will talk to you and let you know what they need. If the leaves are turning yellow or the leaves aren't growing as fast as you would like them to, then it needs nitrogen. Add a nitrogen-based fertilizer to strengthen the leaves. Once it starts growing fruit, then it needs more phosphorus. So once I start seeing flowers, I add phosphorus, and then that'll help the flowers grow, healthy. And once you see the flowers, it's time for them to be pollinated. Depending on what you're growing, you can hand pollinate. Like, for example, tomatoes. You got the tomato flower. It's going to have the male and the female flower inside of the same flower. Unfortunately, we have a decline in the bee population. So if not enough bees can pollinate it, use a electric toothbrush, hold it up to that tomato flower, and it's going to just vibrate and then transfer the pollen from the male to the female and ensure more fruit. Now, if you're hand pollinating, say, cucumbers, watermelon, squash, cantaloupe, pumpkins, something like that, then you're going to see two distinct type of flowers. You're going to see a male flower and a female flower. The male flower is just going to be a flower. The female flower is going to be, okay, let's take a watermelon, for instance. It's going to be a flower, and then right behind it, it's going to look like a tiny watermelon. You can't miss it. You're going to see a small watermelon and a flower. You just need to transfer the pollen from just the male flower, the regular flower, using a Q-tip or you can just pick the flower off and just use it itself. Transfer it to the female with just the flower with a fruit right behind it. That's going to ensure that it gets pollinated. Now, I always grow a pollinator garden, a bunch of marigolds, sunflowers, wildflowers, zinnias. I want to invite as many, flying friendly bugs. We're not trying to get rid of all bugs, just just the ones that's trying to eat our produce. We want the bees, the butterflies, the ladybugs, the predatory wasps to come into the garden. Now, I know we don't like to be stung by wasps, but wasps do help pollinate the garden. So as long as you don't mess with them, they do help in the garden. But now is the time to get started. Get the ground ready. Start your seeds indoors, or if you're growing greens, you can go ahead and put them outside, depending on what zone you're in. But spring is right around the corner. It's time to get growing. It's going to be a very productive season. I look forward to seeing what manifests in the garden. Look forward to helping more students, see where real food comes from. Last year, we helped plant 3 school gardens, and the students love it. Smelling fresh mint, taste testing radishes that they grew in the school garden. It's a beautiful thing, and I would love to help manifest more school gardens, more community gardens. Hey, like I said, if we all grow something and trade with each other, we can eat for free. Let's see, Miss Rose, did you have any other questions about your backyard garden? Miss Beth as well. I want to make sure everyone's garden is productive. It's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes just teach you what not to do next time. So kind of like the beats question we had earlier. So unless you made that mistake, you wouldn't have learned that information. Well, you probably would have still learned it eventually, but that mistake helped you learn. Okay, so I need to make sure I don't do this next time. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Make as many mistakes as possible. That way you'll learn. Because gardening is a hands-on type of thing. You have to actually be out there getting your hands dirty to know, what to do when this happened, what to do when that happened. And a lot of things are kind of case by case. You don't know until it occurs. You may have an awesome season in 2023 and not experience any problems, and then next year, you get an infestation or some kind of bacteria, disease, gets on your plants. You kind of just have to, one day at a time, one season at a time, learn as you grow. Learn as you grow. Yes, it's time. Yeah, I am so glad you put this on. I wish there was more school gardens. Yeah, when I was coming up, we had a science lab that had a school garden. I don't know if we should just write it off for as budget cuts or what, but school gardens help improve test scores. They help expound the children's imaginations, helps them learn to work in groups, help them learn problem solving. And hey, if the school grows their own produce, the cafeteria can use that produce, in the school. Everyone's eating healthy. So that's never a bad thing to have fresh produce, to have too much fresh produce laying around. And I appreciate everyone that tuned in. It really means a lot to me, and I wanna inspire as many people as I can to get growing. And I would love to be a resource and just kind of point people in the right direction. Quick commercial break. The online seed store is open. We've added a couple of new seeds this week. We've added the zinnia mix. We've added cherry tomatoes. and we've added cayenne pepper. So now we have squash, cucumbers, cantaloupe, peppers, radishes, turnips, beets, burdock, amaranth, collard greens, lettuce, dinosaur kale, red Russian kale, dwarf Siberian kale, green beans, okra, zinnias, wildflower mix, and sunflowers. So we have our online seed store, organic, reasonably priced seeds. When you purchase from the Plant-ery organic seed store, you're helping fund school gardening initiatives. You're helping fund more community gardens. It goes towards a good cause, and support a small business. Miss Jenkins, we sell starter plants, seeds, and produce seasonally. So we already have the seeds, and we started the starter plants in the nursery. They're just not ready yet. Give us another month and a half, and we should have the cucumbers ready. The squash should be ready by maybe late April, and then more and more things will begin to become available as it warms up. And then we're currently growing kale, radishes, and we're gonna start Swiss chard commercially. So we will have fresh produce in our market garden. So plants, seeds, and produce. Yes, I will add the store link to the comments right now, Miss Rose. Give me 1 second. I can do that right now. And when you get a chance, check out Plant-ery.com. Now, we have a blog where we upload videos, tutorials, just basic information. We have the tab on there that goes more in depth on the community and school gardening initiatives. We have the contact page where you can just email questions, and we love questions because questions, for one, it helps us sharpen our sword, because it's one thing to know something, but when you explain it to someone else, it kind of reinforces it, and it kind of helps you retain it. So, and it helps me know what kind of content to put on Facebook, YouTube, and online. So, always email us questions. If you have a question, we'll get back to you in a very fast turnaround. And we really just want to take the mystery and the guessing game out of gardening, because it doesn't have to be hard. Just shall learn as you grow. And I'm sorry, Miss Rose, I went on a tangent, started talking. I'm about to put that in the comments right now. All right, so that is the link to the online seed store. And you can get to the .com from the seed store, but I'm gonna put both in the comments. And that's Plant-ery.com. Yep, and Plant-ery, and I named it after my 3 beautiful daughters, Taylor, Tanaya, and Talia. Plant-ery. They're my little helpers. Yes, ma'am, Miss Rose. As soon as the tomatoes and cucumbers are ready, I'll announce it. scroll up. Yeah. Yeah, well, when you buy from our online seed store, you help fund positive things in our area, and hey, if we can inspire students to be interested in gardening, then the next generation, it'll help make a lot of positive change. They say the average farmer is in their 60s. Well, someone has to eventually fill those shoes or boots. So we need more young people interested in getting their hands dirty and you know growing growing quality produce. Well, this has been a very productive live stream. Thank you everyone who tuned in. If you have any other questions, feel free to email us or write a comment on Facebook. You can go to the website or email Plant-ery@gmail.com. I'm gonna put that in the comments as well. Email us at Plant-ery. All right. Email us at I almost said my other email. Plant-ery@gmail.com. Any questions? Any concerns? We'll get back to you ASAP. We look forward to seeing your garden flourish. And feel free to post pictures on our community tab on Facebook as well. We love to see how your garden is doing. Yes, ma'am. I'll tell them hello, Miss Rose. Yes, ma'am. You have a wonderful Sunday night as well, Miss Beth. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your day, and remember to stay positive. Let's get growing.